And we've done campaigns, or I've done campaigns that have generated millions of dollars for products and brands with the teams that I'm on. And you're like, wait, after that, we can just get a trophy and the brand makes millions. And then we might get let go from the company, or the company might not exist anymore, and we get nothing for it. So creatives in our industry never really owned anything. We're just getting extracted till you, when you're young, especially young creatives, you get extracted till you're about 40, 45, and then your career's over. You
Well, welcome, McDonald. It's so nice to have you here. And I'm really excited to get started in our conversation on your progression in the ad agency world. I know you started at Saatchi and Saatchi as an intern, and you went through a lot of different, very well-known ad agencies, and now you started your own creative studio. I'd love to hear about that progression.
Oh my God, it's been a really interesting journey. I started, actually, my first role was at the Miami Herald as an art director, junior sales assistant, and I would bring up the print ads in the real estate department. I'd literally have to bring it up, and then they'd run it in the newspaper. As you know, that doesn't exist. And then by the time I was done with creative advertising school, pretty much we were just doing digital banners, and then that's how I got into Saatchi, winning an award as a student, and then internship there, and then really dove into like creativity and just really get being lucky to get into a lot of these ad agencies like DDB and so on and so forth. That a lot of them aren't here today, but yeah, that's kind of where I started. And right now, I'm currently running my own creative production art studio. Work for local clients only, keeping it small. Really focused on like just working on small things and fun projects and local clients.
Very cool. So, what drew you first to the ad agency world?
Actually, what drew me to the ad agency world was really in undergrad when I, studied advertising. My professor, Dr. Grove, he said he came up with M&M's melt in your mouth and not in your hand. He worked in Madison Avenue. He had scantrons or transparencies to show
Oh,
us like
yeah.
these are how I came up with the ideas, how I wrote it, and then that made me want to be like, oh, I want to work on Madison Avenue. I want to do slogans and jingles, and then fast forward after advertising school. I was like, this is the world I want to be in, creativity. I love that aha moment that ads creates. And then, that's kind of what drew me into it. I, wasn't the best, but I was good enough to, make really cool, clever ads sometimes in certain topics and categories and brands that I found myself liking. So that kind of drew me in and made me realize, this is the path that I want to go.
Okay. So, you were inspired by a professor. Where did you go to undergrad?
University of West Florida. At the time, they were probably ranked really high up for creative advertising. That and marine biology.
Okay. And now you're in Chicago.
Yeah.
And have you spent most of your career in Chicago? Did you ever get to work on Madison Ave?
No, I was in New York for about 10 years. I can walk you through the whole journey. Basically, after undergrad at University of West Florida, I, went to Miami Ad School, Creative Portfolio School. That's where I worked at the Miami Herald. And then after that is when I went to Saatchi and Saatchi, New York. Got to work with like some ad legends like Jerry Graff. And really, I remember him breaking up my portfolio and be like, just take them all out, take all the work out, throw it away, just keep that one piece. And of course, it was the one piece that won a national Addy. So I had to start my portfolio all over again. One of the things I know as creatives, you're always starting your portfolio all over again. Almost every 6 months, you got to rebuild your portfolio, make it look different. And even the platforms that you have your portfolio on changes over the years, from Cargo Collective to everyone's using Shopify. The patterns of design flow change. So you kind of always have to adapt. And then, after Saatchi and Saatchi, really, I got into Tribal DDB, New York, got to experience working with some great creatives, really got into that space. And after Tribal DDB, I went to J. Walter Thompson, which doesn't exist anymore. Your traditional America's first ad agency, no longer here. Worked there, learned TV, and got into, really doing some of that. So at that time, I started a skate brand, which is now the largest skateboarding meetup group in the US. It operates out of New York and a little bit here in Chicago. It's just a meetup group. And I do a lot of my art around the branding, the bomberhead skater, really kind of murals throughout the city, really tapping into the art. So at that time, I started that in New York, then freelance after J. Walter Townsend, got to skate a little bit more, became a professional skater, downhill, 50, 60 miles an hour. I'm kind of running you through the whole journey, but you can get a clear picture of it after, freelancing at all these different agencies from Wyden to McGarry Bowen, paid off my student loans because at the time our industry was flourishing and you could freelance. I'm talking, you make $1,000 a day. Freelancing as an art director or copywriter, really working with all these different brands. And then after that, I decided to, let me get back into a full-time agency role. I went into Momentum
Mhm.
experiential advertising with McCann, working with McCann with Momentum, really building tons of experiences, doing great things from brands like American Express, Hawk Island activation that they still do till this day, creating these real good experiences that touched humans and physical person being in the space. And that's when I realized, that's my niche. That not only creating that aha moment, but tying the physical and digital worlds together. Fast forward, I moved to Chicago. I'm at Razorfish, a really great agency. Did a lot of cool things. That's kind of like your Leo Burnett, working with the Leo Burnett team, doing all the digital stuff. And that at the same time, our industry is changing. Like
Mhm.
we're trying to figure it out. Then you look at it starts to go shift more towards data, social media. It starts to, really impressions. How can brands get more eyes and awareness on people, getting them to tap in and seeing things in different ways. So now you have that element of you still have to touch them in the physical world, still have to touch them in the digital world. How do you create a persona for brands that stand out with all this clutter that we're getting? And then after really working at Razorfish, I went to Havas. Havas was pretty good. We worked at the Annex where we did a lot of activations, physical, really tapped into the culture. You're talking like we had Kanye West in the office. It was just really the cultural hub at the time. And at the same time, I had the opportunity to go on a couple shoots. I was working on a brand. One of the brands I worked on everything you can think of. I worked on Camel, and I did not like it. So I ended up meeting Toryar, who was the CCO of DDB's We Are Unlimited, McDonald's. And he was like, "Your name's McDonald? You live in Chicago, and you're not working on McDonald's?" So the I was like, all right, cool. So the next week I go over to his office. He's like, yeah, what are you making? I'll give you $3 more. Come over here. I'm exaggerating, but so I started
Yeah.
with McDonald's and then I worked on that brand, really doing a lot of their buy one, get one, bongo, really understanding, how a large brand like that to scale, creating television spots nationally, regionally, understanding that, there's specific ways to create spots that target certain audiences. The Happy Meal commercials, I was like the master of creating those. And you would have to create Happy Meal spots, 15 seconds with guidelines, and then plug in the creativity into it. So really making it really difficult to produce, but also creating speed. But now you can start to think now with other tools that we could use to help create these targeted ads specifically. Fast forward to after DDB's We Are Unlimited, they lost the account to Wyden, the whole agency
Mhm.
closed. Then I start working at a couple of multicultural agencies to really see the difference. I worked on McDonald's at a multicultural agency, and budget's completely different. You're like, whoa, we get way
What
more.
year was this?
This was 2018,
Okay.
2018, 2019, a little bit pre-pandemic or pandemic era.
Mhm.
Or right after the pandemic, really. And then after working on McDonald's and a multicultural and working on McDonald's at the large scales, I would have like 500K for a TV spot, and here I had 50K. I was like, what? What's going on? And the
Yeah.
audience that uses it the most. It's so you start to see like, okay, there's bigger pictures. There's certain elements of play towards how brands are targeting, especially when brands are in physical spaces. Really understanding that grasp of it, and then later on, after working at on the multicultural agency, I had the honor of working at Gut Miami, which
Mhm.
was my hometown, Miami. And Gut is a machine. They have a strategic way of creating work that wins awards. So they built their work just to win the awards. And then you start to see, okay, cool. You have a mechanic creating that aha moment. I worked there for a while, really learned that craft with Anselmo and a bunch of great creatives. Then I moved over to, I was lucky enough to, entrepreneurial spirit in me caused me to, continue to build my art space, my studio. I that time you had the NFT boom, so I started creating art around that. Created an art NFT gallery. Started creating work that tied physical and digital pieces together. Working with a lot of artists, really tying everything together in that sense. And that's when VML Y&R approached, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to be a creative director, VP of Web3. We've never had that title before. Web3 now, as you know, it encompasses you know, a lot of emerging technology, AI, um, digital assets, currencies, digital currencies, understanding, what's a node, what's a, understanding, what it takes to create uh, tokens and digital tokens and really realizing that it's tying digital assets to physical assets and really
Mm.
understanding how the youth and the culture kind of can pump up the value of a t-shirt, can pump up the value of a digital asset. So that was a really fun experience kind of going in and teaching brands like Coca-Cola how to really tap into that culture, how to do launch large NFT project at the time when that was popular, really, and tying it back to what's the good, the why for the brand, and understanding how the brands can really tie this digital asset world. And you start to look at digital asset world and gaming like Roblox and all of that stuff. How does that, really have value, and how can a brand be authentic and play in that space? So I helped out a lot of brands really doing that. At VML. And then, of course, the hype cycle. When you look at the Gartner's hype cycle, innovation trigger goes up and then it dies. So, of course, the hype cycle dies. VML uh, lets go of the role. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna just keep building. I have that, and I started to realize that the model. Here's the good stuff that I realized through all these years, that the model of creativity that we've created just doesn't work. Because I would always complain about
Mm.
billable hours. I'm like, this might take me an hour to do, or it might take me 5 hours to do. A senior creative might come in and do it in 2 hours. Then you start looking at the pricing scales of how they're charging for the clients. So if a senior is making 100, a junior is making 50, then we would charge the clients 3x that so that the agency can generate revenue. And then you're like, that really doesn't work because you can't put value to creativity. And we've done campaigns, or I've done campaigns that have generated millions of dollars for products and brands with the teams that I'm on. And you're like, wait, after that, we can just get a trophy and the brand makes millions. And then we might get let go from the company, or the company might not exist anymore. And we get nothing for it. So creatives in our industry never really owned anything. We're just getting extracted till you, when you're young, especially young creatives, you get extracted till you're about 40, 45, and then your career's over. We're going to go hire a junior creative. So I realized that. So that kind of made me start to, really build my agency, Human Intelligence, um, um, around just all human creativity, where how do we not charge you but build work that we can profit off of with the client, tying royalties to ideas, generating ideas. So the model's kind of like right now I'm welcoming all freelancers to just come in, come in, come in, come in. You get selected, you get basic hourly rate. You can take 2 hours to do it. It's about submitting of the idea that wins. We execute it, and then you get tied towards the percentage of increase that the client makes. I know this is crazy. Clients are like, whoa, but like, going the route of finding funding and, going the route of, getting loans and really starting to put together and map out how can this work in a year, you realize you could probably take out that old model that's no longer existing right now. These holding companies are set up, WPP, Omicron, Publicis, they're set up in a way so that the people up top are making so much money, and then they walk out with a $40 million I'm not going to say any names, but like a lot of these guys, what do you do? You're just a figurehead. You're not in the groundwork pumping out the work or generating the culture that the agencies had back in the day. Like you look at the Mad Men era and you look at like, of course there were changes that had to happen. And, diverse, having more women in the creative rooms. The industry's kind of set up in a way where there's never going to be a lot of people of color or diverse people because those creatives go somewhere else. They go do cooler things. They could go make, they could go do other things. And I think what I've saw through my years, a lot of people who knew about advertising had relatives that worked in it. And they were like, oh, go work at this agency. My dad worked at Lear Burnett. But now those agencies don't exist anymore. And so, but the thing that's being that's suffering is the creativity, which is what got me into advertising, that aha moment, like seeing that print ad that make you cry or that make you move, or that TV spot, Budweiser, or like, anything like that, like my brain's just shooting the things out, but like, that created culture or part of culture. Now I think we're in this era to where I'm at right now, working with AI 2030. I've realized it's about, creativity is still needed. You need that human element to create things that are emotional, that can touch another human. The robots and the AI can just execute really well and create these emotions. So kind of that's kind of the whole journey and where I'm at now. Really just trying to inspire other creatives to just go out there and do it, and come sign up for a lot of our local projects that we're doing, physical activations, helping out other brands, really trying to figure out how to tie IP to creatives and creatives that are creating, so they're not as extracted or exploited as our industry was. That model that would set up where the juniors would get paid 50K and they would be doing the ones generating that aha cultural moment that of course you need your senior to kind of navigate how to sell it through the client, but now all of that stuff is going away. The clients are going to directly start to go to the creatives, the smaller shops. They're going to start, because the bigger holding companies were just so bloated. You'd have brands that had like 4 ECDs on a client, and it just didn't make any sense. And I never really saw it making any sense with timesheets. I'm like, I'm spending 8 hours to do timesheets. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, is there another way we could charge and let me focus on the creative and let me, as a creative, we go home on a weekend, our brains, that's where our ideas, or when we're not in front of the computer, that's when we're thinking of aha moments and ideas, looking at human truths and really figuring out how to tie culture to the briefs that we have. And sometimes it might take us an hour, and we shouldn't be penalized for being able to have that skill set of creating something for an hour. And now with AI, I can do it in 30 minutes instead of an hour. I still need that brain power of the human to create, and my years of experience from shooting commercials to being on set to, all those years of experience now culminates into this like powerhouse who can just execute and grab the right tools that's needed now that these tools are so available to us all.
Yeah. I mean, AI is definitely changing things. So is AI 2030 your studio then?
AI 2030 is a responsible AI organization. It's the largest one globally. Their goal is to make sure that every organization practices responsible AI. They help with legislation. Xiao Chen is the founder. It's a nonprofit. I volunteer for it, and I've been doing a couple podcasts for them, and hopefully creating some social content for them in the future. But yeah, I'm a member of AI 2030, Responsible AI. But my agency is called High Creative Agency. It's High Creative, really human intelligence. So basically, really focusing on a lot of. I think this AI thing is a fad. It's going to do the same thing that the Web3 thing did. Right now, I think AI is all about generating revenue. It's all about paying you paying Google $29.99 to get credits to practice on creativity or come up with prompts so they can get data and generate more revenue. I think it should be free for creatives to just play around and build. And I don't think we should be getting charged so much to even have access to all these AI tools. And I think it's a money drain right now. So it's at its innovation trigger. It's going to reach that hype cycle, then it's going to go into the trough of disillusionment, and no one's going to want to hear the word AI. Same thing with NFT and crypto. And, it's all about human experiences. I think right now the money people are eating up. So that's why you have organizations like Responsible AI 2030, making sure that government is using it properly, making sure that big corporations who have the money to buy all of the AI usage and tools are not, exploiting it. But at the end of the day, you're gonna need that junior creative who's like out in the streets, who's experiencing what's going on to come in and create, and you can bring it out to the masses and the brands. And really, I think that core of what used to happen back then, America was built on, like, a lot of culture was built on advertising and branding. I think it's going to be the same way, but it's just going to be it's just going to shift it through the tunnels that it goes through. It's not going to need your J. Walter Thompson or your big holding companies to because they're scrambling right now. They don't know how to get on TikTok and how to create things right now. A lot of a voice and awareness. The only reason they're winning right now is because they still have money to buy media and buy. But I think that model's going to slowly trickle away in time.
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting perspective of AI. That's the first time I've heard that you think it's going to peak and then it's going to start fizzling out. Is that a generally shared perspective in the network that you're involved in?
I think when you meet the right people, they know it and they see it. I don't know if that's a shared perspective at all. A lot of people um, who, with creativity, I've always used innovation and tools. And I remember AI and not AR and using, all these new innovation and creative tools to help the creative idea be executed. And I feel like AI is kind of the same thing. It's just a new tool. And the hype, the innovation trigger has been image generation, text generation, all of that. But I think it's going to become a norm. You're going to, a lot of people are going to just, dictate into their phones, and writing is going to be the way humans write. It's going to be a little bit different for communication. So it's going to be where, the way we work is going to change, but I don't think the hype of AI is going to stay. It's just going to be, we're not even going to know that AI is in everything that we're doing. Just like the internet, just when the internet came, it was new. But now it's like, oh, it's normal. Of course. What do you mean we don't have Wi-Fi to communicate with each other right now, which we are, before we
Right.
have to get on a phone call on a landline.
Right. Yeah. Almost like video
hmm
interviews and conversations. It's now become the norm. Okay. No, I love that perspective. I think that it takes away a lot of the fear that some people are experiencing. Just with anytime there's a change, there's a new technology, there's people who are excited and embrace it. And then there's people who are afraid of it, and different fears come up, like, oh, my job is going to be dissolved. It may just change. That's what I'm hearing from your perspective.
And right now, what's happening, your job will be dissolved. Be prepared for it. And then the bigger companies are going to realize, wait, we need that job again, but they're going to need it in a different way. It's
Mm,
not this, it's like every job, I think, just like the newspaper in Miami Herald, like all of those jobs are dissolved, but those people are doing the same. Real estate sales is still doing what they were doing in a different way. Maybe they're just, it's still happening, but just completely in a different way. A lot of the jobs are going to dissolve, but just like, how does the job's going to dissolve, but the skill set and the years of experience won't. It's going to shift to create the new job. So by the next 10 years, when someone needs to replace you, that job will be so different. But it will still need you to, like, kind of train the individual that's analyzing the data, or analyze, because who's the human analyzing makes the decision when it comes to, you're going to need humans with the skills and understanding of that job or that past. What's the goal of that job? A TV spot is to do this. What's the goal? You're gonna need that creative director. And if you notice in our industry, you'd have like these guys. It was mostly men, right? That would have these teams of creatives that would just like constantly win, and they just had the formula, and they move agencies, like the whole team would move with them, or they'd bring in their guys freelancing. Those guys, or some women, rarely. I could think of two or three throughout my experience. Gina, and a couple others at FCB Health, Gina at FCB Health, and a couple other women leaders. Cindy, like you start going down the list, but it's not as much has those men that kind of ran those teams. And I think that's going to start to shift, and it's going to open up opportunities for diverse and other creatives to come in and start doing the same thing and executing without the guard. I think the agencies were guardrails, like really now, as I start to think about it, um, to funnel brands, clients, and that's completely shifting now. And AI is just accelerated the process. It's accelerated the process. I don't know if you saw the Coca-Cola TV spot they did using AI.
Trying to think if I have seen it. No, which one is it?
They recently did one. They did the holiday teddy bears using AI. Backlash was
Mm,
pretty bad. It didn't have any human connection, and even if they used animation, that would have been a little bit more, or claymation or something that you knew that it took craft to. It would
it was
you
just flat.
Yeah, it was just flat.
Yeah.
So it's like you're gonna see a lot of that, and then Coca-Cola's gonna run back and be like, McDonald, can you come draw 20 million individual things and make something cool that like that like that's gonna go back to that craft. I think we're gonna see a lot of going back to craft, going back to human individual craft. You're gonna start to see that because our eyes are gonna be so bombarded with AI created, and another area too is Facebook animation, Facebook algorithm ads, all of that. That's going to become generic. You're just going to want real stuff. You're going to want
Hmm.
to see it because they're going by data, impressions, hours people are spending on it to target. A lot of that things that were effective are going to, because of AI, are going to become not effective anymore. So you're going to need new tactics, and it's the same. I've been in the industry for since what, 2007. We're in 2020, going on 26.
26, yeah. Almost 2026, pretty
Yeah,
much.
we're about 14 days from 2026. And just to see, I can imagine people who've been in it before me that have seen the drastic changes. I'm really excited about this new industry that's coming out.
Mm,
You're gonna see like some agencies are gonna still be here that made their noise, but they're newer, like Mischief, Wyden's still gonna be doing their thing because they're independent. A lot of the independent ones are gonna be doing their things, but I think what might change is the award shows. I think we're gonna start to realize that it's just us giving ourselves awards, and your mom doesn't know what a con line is. Your dad doesn't. They don't care. You know what I mean? Like, what are things that are truly meaningful to people outside of the industry? I think that's what's going to start to matter, and the brands and clients that are doing that type of work will stand out, and they're going to matter to people. As opposed to award driven, award, 10 cons, 20 cons, 30 cons, Clios, all of that. That's going to mean nothing in the next few years, because I think an AI has kind of accelerated that, you know?
So it sounds like AI is a disruptor, but also a disruptor in a good way
Oh, yeah.
because it's breaking down models that were created decades ago and that weren't allowing the diversity that you're talking about, wasn't allowing. I mean, I remember I've been in recruiting for over 20 years. I remember recruiting for mass media positions, and then you mentioned that multicultural positions. And hearing about the differences in the funding and being perplexed as to why would you invest this much here, but not have that budget when there's such a large multicultural community in the US. I know there's been different organizations that have been working to change that. AIM is one of them, and they go to the Cannes Festival every year as well. But I like the idea of AI being a disruptor and that this change could be a really good and positive development in the evolution of creativity and the evolution of creatives being able to make impact. But also, I hear you saying with this new model that High works in, being able to earn money in a way based on the impact that a creative's ideas help a brand's growth. So, can you talk to us about that a bit?
Yeah, so basically what it is, it's an idea, it's a start, someone has to start it. And what I'm doing is trying to work with a couple AI tracking firms. I know AI, oh, I hate the word, but I'm using it and I work in it to track impact in media, so campaigns. So basically you can track, okay, if we launch these three campaigns, here's the creatives that worked on it, tie a percentage to kind of create that model where if the campaign does really, really well and the client sees an increase in sales, we agree on a certain amount percentage that the creatives are going to get based on that impact. Client agrees, that happens, everybody wins. Track it. Campaign's over. Client creative stops earning royalties. Client wants to run another campaign, creative starts to earn royalties based on increase. So it's just pretty a simple, straightforward tracking, and depending on what type of ads, whether it's a TV spot, we're looking at return on investment and really allowing the creatives to really prosper from it. Because throughout my whole career and throughout, it's just been like, whoa, we're just getting extracted. We're coming up with all of these cool ideas. We're making millions of dollars for these brands, and we're getting a salary. And once that salary is over, it's like, oh, I have no more money. How do I live? You know what I mean? And yet McDonald's is running that campaign. I always look at the coffee, McDonald's coffee ads that they have up. I was like, I remember I shot that. Now they're all billboards all over. I'm like, I get nothing for this. And my name is
Mhm.
McDonald. But like, so that, it made me think like, how do we, as creatives, how do we prosper, you know, on our ideas? It happens in the music industry. It happens in every other industry. And I think like it takes, someone to be that face and to talk about it. I'm not saying I'm the one that's going to change it all the way, but I might spark it and have a bigger company be like, oh, let's do this model. Go ahead, do it, please. Please. And
Yeah.
have every creative that lost their job recently because of the IPG and Omnicom merger go work there and get royalties. I think bring back the creativity, bring back that. Did you see that ad? Did you see the Super Bowl spot? No one, like, did you see those? Remember those? Like, those were so much culture and so much, thing that we really can't lose. We really shouldn't lose. That's what I'm kind of envisioning with this model, and building it. There's learning. That's why I'm keeping it local first, working with local clients. It's really trackable. It's just me working with a couple of creatives that I've worked with in the past that volunteer to kind of help out with their skill set. We do a lot of I do a lot of physical building of graphics and printing through one of my partners who I used to work with at an ad agency that does that with me, and then I collab with a couple other people. But it's a start. That's how that model's working.
When did you launch your creative studio?
I started doing this. I started doing this um, maybe like about a couple months ago, 6 months ago. I would say.
Okay.
It's when I started putting the idea together, started formulating, building a roster, and I think now I'm comfortable enough to be like, okay, I'm gonna do an official. Here's our site. Here's our thing. Right now, it's just really just me building with my
Mhm.
network and kind of finding the right routes, whether it's funding because it's AI in the AI world and how we're mapping everything out, and all of that. So
Okay, wonderful. Is there anything that you would need right now to really take your 6 month agency to the next level?
I would think right now I would think clients that want to try. Clients that want to try, like that just want to try and want to be part of it, and kind of like sign up, come do it, and let's figure it out, let's build this. We're working on getting funding to pay to freelancers because it's all freelancers based, never hiring any creatives. Creatives should never work full time anywhere. It just doesn't make any sense. We're here to give you cool creative ideas. Take it, make it, go on, give us a little bit of royalty. That's it. I think full time as a creative, I think that's not conducive to creativity. It strains you as a creative. I think creatives should be able to work on Nike and then the next day go work on Red Bull and then next day go work on Tampax tampons and next day go work on Dove Bar. Creatives should be able to just work on whatever. Of course, sign their NDAs and don't share other ideas until they're executed. But it makes me feel like even creatives have to put password protected portfolios just doesn't make any sense. Also, too, I think you can't share work you've done. It just doesn't make any sense. I did every single line art. Every what? I can't share this? What do you mean? Like I did this. You're gonna pay me and I can't share it. Okay, cool. I guess I'll take the money and I won't put it on my portfolio. You get where I'm saying? We're
Yes,
headed in this
absolutely.
we're headed in this new world, and AI has been the backing to help shift this. Where do I see this agency in the next 10 years? Thousands of creatives, freelance creatives that just hop in, hop out, work on whatever they want. Oh, I didn't get submitted. Okay, cool. Oh, that campaign got submitted. Oh, I'm sure the creators behind it are getting royalties because that went crazy. You know, that's where I see in the next 10 years. I think you didn't ask me that question, but I told you that answer anyway.
I like that answer to my question I didn't propose. No, I mean, what I'm saying is just like a whole new culture for creatives too. It's like if you're giving these great ideas and one really sparks some growth for a brand and you can appreciate and enjoy those royalties, then creatives can have the flexibility to really travel and to feed their creativity and maybe go do some pro bono project or some other type of project. Like you mentioned, being able to do the skateboarding meetup and create that community. And then you do your artwork that the NFT artwork as well as the artwork that you clearly have on your clothes, which is amazing. So having creatives essentially giving them that freedom too.
Mhm. Yeah, essentially giving them that freedom and essentially, when you have freedom, you can be a little bit more creative. When you have to be creative, not for survival, I remember the amount of hours I put in as a junior in that 444 Madison Avenue. I would sleep in the agency sometimes, and just change clothes and just because you're so passionate and you want to make it as a junior creative and you want to give it your all so that you can go from 50K to 80K so you are not student loan, a little bit of food, like imagine if you don't have that and all you got to do is just come in and be creative and like just really think and tap into culture. It helps with the work. And I think if our industry, which the new industry can shift to being that, it'll survive and then these cons and all these award shows could really award creativity for pure creative ideas and client um, revenue generation and creative revenue generation, because I would prefer royalties over 10 count lines any day. And I'm pretty sure any creative would. Recognition is not it anymore. It's not. Because the clients are looking for more, and the creatives are looking for more. We've seen what the industry's done to other creatives. I think creative goes from about 20s to about 40s. Then it gets harder as a creative director to find another creative director job. But this is from experience, and I remember as an art director, I could hop. It was easy to get because we always need art directors at lower level. You always need it, but as you get more senior, that becomes smaller, and it becomes harder to find these roles. And then that just shows that we're both doing the same job, creativity. One of us just has the ability to facilitate it and navigate it through clients and get it out there more. So if you figure out a way to merge it, and then it becomes purely about creativity, and it's not. And the financial aspect is covered with the royalties and how great your creative is, like
Mhm.
music.
Mhm. So, talk to me about the benefits of a company coming to an organization like yours and engaging your services for their creative.
I think the benefit of a company coming to my services, they will see kind of like it's truly about their brand and achieving their goals. Whatever their goal is, that's what we're focusing on, and using creativity and doing it in a new way. Taking what they have and really shifting how to do it, and figuring out how not to charge them so much money, because we don't need to charge you that much money to get to the end point. How do we create something that works for you and works for your audience fast, using all these tools, showing you literally behind the sheets how we're doing it? Oh, this is going to take, we're still going to need the traditional 3D guy to do this the traditional way. Oh, we're going to do this faster. We're going to, here, we're going to set this up for you so you don't have to, like an example I can give is a a play cafe for children. I took on the client. I charged her really nothing for the site build, but built the site and set it up. So with the campaign that we're doing and the team that worked on it, had the more increase of people signing up during that time period, the creatives get a little bit of royalty. We charged nothing for it, but the creatives that worked on it enjoyed coming up with these cool, and they had the flexibility. I was able to pay them freelance rate, a small freelance rate, to execute so quickly, because of course it's not going to take us more than a couple of hours to execute, because we're using new tools like AI. And as long as we have your images, and we could, AI meaning, whatever platform we're using, whether it's Lovable or whether it's GoDaddy's new AI feature, like everyone's doing, and those are going to change over time. And it's important we let the clients know, like, this is just a tool. It's going to change. It's popular now. It might not be popular in 2 years. So how do we create something for you that you can kind of shift? And the creatives that work on it are passionate about it because they want it to do well. They want the royalties at the end of it. So I would tell clients, just come in and really, it wouldn't cost anything to come work with us and really find out, like, how can they take their brand to the next level in a new way.
Wonderful. So, I'm sure that there's creatives listening right now, and you're expanding their awareness on how AI can positively impact the creative industry. Of course, we're in the midst of it, right? You were talking the other day about how DDB just got dissolved after getting purchased. There's still a lot of changes. There's layoffs that are happening. So, what could you tell to a creative who just got laid off, who's invested years in the industry? What can they do right now other than reach out to you and potentially get on one of these projects that you're working on? What's something that they can do to prepare themselves for this next evolution of the creative industry?
Um, cut your spending, cut your spending, first of all. Really start to plan out the next 6 months, knowing that you might not find a job in 6 months. really look at that as a reality. Because I went through that. I was like, okay, now from there, the next step would be think about what are you good at? What are your passions? What are you passionate about? And what every time you would be hired on a brand, like what type of brands that you were hired on, what type of create. Now start to realize, can you start to find out how to go to the brand and give that skill to them? How do you skip past the agency model, the agencies, and go directly to client? Start to post work that you're passionate about. Start to do things that you're passionate about. Start to, I try to write on LinkedIn. Sometimes controversial stuff. Sometimes the controversial stuff is just to get impressions. I'm not gonna even lie to you, and it's fun to kind of engage and see people's perspectives. But write about what you're interested in and use these tools like LinkedIn. Social media, I think, has gone to the point where it's kind of you can use it as a brand better. You start to shift how your personal social media is to make that be a more brand social media or create a new brand social media because people are always looking for new things. I would say also really kind of really once you figure out what you're passionate about, really start to hone in and hopefully you find a way of generating revenue in a new way, in a new way. And freelance, if freelance, you're going to see a lot more freelancing happening. A lot of brands are going to they can't afford to hire full time because there's of the uncertainty of whether the clients are going to stay with them longer or whether the clients are going to be able to afford the retainers and all of that. So I would say be comfortable with freelancing, be comfortable with knowing your niche in freelancing, and if you've been at a lot of health agencies, start looking at the actual clients. Like reach out to them on LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn Sales Navigator or something to directly send a personal message, and just I say just wait it out. I think once that hype cycle that is gone through, I feel like a lot of whatever agencies are left are going to realize they need I need bodies on this campaign. I need bodies on this retainer to maintain that retainer. And I think that should pick up soon. And I think all things play into it. You got to look at our economic where we're at. There's a lot of uncertainty, whether it's political or whether it's environmental. There's a lot of that going on. Just know that's part of it, and you just got to navigate it. Just know all your years of experience is probably the most valuable thing you have. For the ones that just got laid off, the years of experience are going to make you better. That's like the years of experience. I think just know in the back of your head that that's is going to kind of pivot you to this new direction as new agencies start to open up. But yeah,
Okay, no, that's great. And I think that it is important to acknowledge the experience that people have. And it sounds like we are human, right? And it sounds like it's important. We're looking for that authenticity. And people know when things are AI generated. That's what I'm hearing you say with the Coca-Cola ad, that it's flat. And as humans with experience, we have a lot of value to offer. And it's just a matter of time before companies realize that.
yeah, and I think it's going to happen faster than we think. Because I went through the Web3 cycle, that craze. I went through the not fully the .com, but like the digital ads and the banner ads. I went through the invention of social media with Facebook. Just watch those things don't last that long. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
looking at it now, you're like, oh, but they don't last that long. The hype doesn't last that long. It shifts. So just I would say for those creatives, just bear through the shift. Find innovative things to do things that you're passionate about, sell art on your walls, have art shows in your studio space, touch, people say touch grass. I say, connect with humans, go outside, like really try not to think of it and enjoy that. This is what I try to do for myself. Enjoy that physical moment that you're in, and hopefully you budgeted enough to kind of really uh, really go through this period and really find something else, because something's gonna open up. And whether you're not in this industry, what I think too, other industries value what we can do, and now they can hire you, and you could be like that agency creative person that can do a lot, or navigate and lead a lot of what they're doing internally. So I think about that, try to keep that positive outlook on it for creatives, and that'll help them.
Anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
No, I think that's about it. I would say, now that you asked, if any investors are out there and like want to know about this model, we could use the funding to hire way more creatives to get more clients, and just to keep this model working, because I think if I know, if proven, it'll work and fund itself. Where, me as the founder, I'm not making the most money out of it. Whoever is the creative that came up with that campaign, that's the new, they killed it. That creative's generating revenue, because that campaign, like, I think that, if I can get funding to pay more freelancers, that would be really, really cool, and to expand more and get more people to come explore and experiment with what I'm doing here in Chicago.
If you enjoyed listening to this empowering story of a creative living his dream, regardless of his circumstances, situations, and conditions, I invite you to check out this video. And remember, you deserve to live a life that you absolutely love. You can do it. I believe in you.